Of course, I knew about the whole cast. I knew about Owen and Marc. So yeah, it's one of those curveball gifts, that the universe throws at you once in a while.
Welcome to Story and Craft. Now, here's your host, Marc Preston.
Okay, here we go back again. Another episode of Story and Craft. How are you? I'm Marc Preston. If this is your first time, welcome, welcome. If you've been here before, thanks for stopping back by. Today, we have a fun guest. Her name, Mariana Treviño. She is a Mexican actress who now, though, is in the new Apple TV show called Stick, along with Owen Wilson, Marc Maron, Judy Greer, Timothy Oliphant. Really great conversation. Really enjoyed the opportunity to sit down and chat with her. And I think you will enjoy it as well. And do me a favor real quick. If you would, make sure to hop over to storyandcraftpod.com. That's the way you find out everything you could possibly want to know about the show, as well as shoot me a note or, reach out, whatever you'd like to do. Now, also, don't forget to grab your podcast app and follow the show. That way you get notified every time there is a new episode. And also, if you would leave some stars, leave a review. That way folks can more easily find Story and Craft, which I greatly appreciate. So let's jump right on into it. Today is Mariana Treviño Day on Story and Craft. So this has hopefully not been too crazy hectic of a day for you.
No, it's been really exciting. Talking about the show, it's really nice because you bring out of your heart what everything that you lived. You start remembering. You talk about it. We were just saying with Marc, like it's really nice to talk about our show and revisit it again. And
caught the first the first 3 or 4 episodes so far. Loving the show. Great cat. I think you're a lot of fun as well because I'll just say that you're the quintessential wonderful mother, but there seems to be a little mischief in there. So that's going to be kind of fun,
Yeah.
So you're originally from Monterrey, correct?
I am. Monterrey,
okay.
Leon, in the north of Mexico.
I know. I'm right now in South Padre Island. So if you're from Monterrey.
I love South Padre Island. We went there when we were little. A lot of people from my city, since it was closed, we went there.
In fact, I had some very close friends who we saw every year growing up, Liliana and Jesus Treviño. I don't know where I would love to reconnect with them.
Treviño. There's so many Treviños in Monterrey. There's like millions of families with the same last name.
It's kind of it's the Mexican Smith.
Yeah, exactly. But only from Monterrey. Only from that part of Mexico. So we might be related or not. To Lee Treviño. You know Lee Treviño?
I went to college with his daughter, yes.
You did?
Sure did. Which my grandfather thought was quite, he was a big golfer, and we're from Dallas originally. So story with him, there was lightning that hit near him one day and fused his zipper shut. I don't know if he got hit by lightning or it was near him, but he had a zipper and it got melted shut, which there were all kinds of jokes about that.
God, no, yeah, I read about that. Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know if once or more than once, because they say that once you get hit by lightning, it comes back to you. Like you become magnetized. And
Well, one thing I love about Monterrey, the people down there, there's a strong connection to Texas, and there are a lot of folks. We just said, was it Semana Santa? Am I saying it right?
Semana Santa. Yeah. We will always want. And it's true. Monterey and the connection with Texas was always very tight because we're also similar people, like the ranchers, there's farms, there's ranchers, there's cowboys, in Mexico. So it's like, it was always very close.
And of course, Owen Wilson, he's a Dallas boy, I think. I think he's originally from Dallas. So you got that kind of Texas thing happening there, which is kind of fun.
That.
But I got to know how did the project come along for you? Because I know you do work now. Are they Mexican productions, or are they more just Spanish language productions made in the U.S.? I mean, where are you spending a lot of your time, or most of your time?
Yeah, mostly in Mexico. I've mostly worked in Mexico. I live in Mexico City. It's been years now, and most of my career has been developed there. But in the late years, I have been, getting some other jobs overseas, like in Spain.
My daughter studied over there. I mean, the amount of eating that you must do if you're in Spain is the food is.
The food is great.
I'm so envious of you now. Yeah,
I'm vegetarian, so I miss a lot of it. They were like, I missed it. Yeah, but But yeah, the olive
Well,
oil.
I know Maron, I think, is vegetarian also. So did y'all?
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Mark
so
is. That's right. In common. Yeah.
well, I will say I just because I had something going on, I had to turn off right at the moment. Not going to say I don't like spoilers, but he was in a predicament, and you showed up in his trailer to notice the predicament he was in, and so
Yeah.
that's where I've stopped. I got to get beyond that now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Predicament.
but going back, how did the project come to you? How did Stick end up coming into your world?
So I got an audition, and of course you get some scenes. And when I got this scene that I auditioned with, I immediately was drawn, of course, to the writing of Jason Keller and Chris. It was just funny and it was interesting. I don't know what they were. I think no, they were obviously talking about golf in the scene. So I was like, oh, this is interesting, and the tone and just the rhythm of the scene I loved, but one never knows. So that went into the universe, that like, and it came back, and I started being, selected until I was in. And then of course I knew about the whole cast. I knew about Owen and Marc, and so yeah, it's one of those like curveball gifts, that the universe
Mhm.
throws at you once in a while, like we were talking earlier. The actor works, and sometimes the universe, like the not the universe, the career kind of responds in very
Yeah.
unexpected ways and offers some opportunities that it's like you don't even know where it came from. But so this is the case. I was very surprised to be picked. I was very grateful, and I thoroughly enjoyed the process. I think it's such a sweet and heartfelt show, and I think it's much needed in times like this that we're living as humanity.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed about
Yeah.
There are stories which have yet to be unraveled. You haven't got to that point yet, but it was interesting because the perspective I first had of it. Checked out. I listen to Marc Maron every now and then. Whenever I'm in the car, that's usually where I check out podcasts. But he had discussed it. And I was like, well, it sounds like an interesting project. Owen Wilson. The question is, did you have any golf, any kind of background? Like, did you play?
I
Did you have
I
somebody in your world who
didn't.
did?
I really didn't. I only had the Lee Trevino reference, as I
Yeah.
I mentioned to you. Like
Yeah.
every time I came here, somebody was, "Are you related to Lee Trevino?" But since I was 12 years old, since I went to South Padre Island,
Mhm.
everybody's Lee Trevino. So we were always mystified, like, who is Lee Trevino? Why does it keep coming back? And then I looked up his story, and it's just so inspiring. And one becomes identified, unconsciously with that. You read it, and maybe my mind threw a little wish in there, and maybe he led me to this show. Who knows? But that's really my prior knowledge to the show. But when I started filming it and just observing what it takes and analyzing what kind of sport it is, I was absolutely mystified by it. I was completely fascinated by like taking dimension of the kind of sport that it is. Very
Mhm.
different from others, and how philosophical and like quantic it is.
Yeah, there are two kind of people
Empathy.
I've found in life. There are people that really fuss over the score and how they're playing. Other ones are just like, well, I'm outside. It's a beautiful day. You're out driving around the golf cart. That's kind of the golfer I am. I don't really fixate on the playing on
Yeah.
the scoring
Because
part of it.
also there's a fascinating part, and it talks about life so much. That's the beauty, that it's like metaphorical of what these characters are going through in the show, is that there's always a part where no matter how you calculate your shots, no matter what internal mathematics and the strategy that you're doing, and you take in consideration all the elements, there's always, because of this great expanse, and because you're coming your mind and intention that is symbolized in this really small ball. It's like that ball is like a concentration of human intention, and no matter how much you put it forth, there's always an element of unpredictable outcome, because of the wind, because of the humidity,
Yeah.
because there's many aspects, and you're interacting with all these natural elements, and that's also a great part of it. You never know the outcome exactly. There's always an
Well,
element of magic and of
if you don't understand the phrase "man plans, God laughs," that golf's a great sport for
yeah,
to
like
learn that. Well, I was curious when you were growing up. You said in Monterey, was your family? Were you coming from performance people in the performing arts, or were you just kind of like, I'm just going to go do this thing, and your family was doing something totally different than you?
totally different. Yeah, I don't. So my parents are became teachers both in their own field. I also studied literature because of my mom. That was close and similar to her. But the acting thing, I don't know. It really is a mystery. When they ask me, I'm like, I have no idea where it came from. Of course, I did dance. I did this
Hmm.
whole set of little preparations in my earlier formative years that I think led naturally to this because I did dance, for like 4 years in a conservatory. I did some singing. So it was all like preparing the instrument for something that was going to come. But really, the decision to be an actress just came out of the blue, as we can say it. Although I believe that nothing comes out of the blue. Really, there's other machinations of destiny working there. I don't know,
Well,
something
what
that
was the original plan for you?
precedent.
What were you thinking about doing when you were younger, or were you in school?
I
Like,
think,
this is what I want to do.
yeah, I think first it was dance, but then I was like, okay, I need something more, and then singing. I thought I was gonna sing, but then I don't know. I went to Boston because my friends were in Boston doing, there were a lot of them were in Berkeley, and I went to do a summer program there. And even though I like to sing and everything, I remember this that I thought I saw them studying all day their instruments, the piano room, my friend like 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, and I remember thinking, okay, I think this is not my thing. I love singing, but I'm not I don't feel like a musician. And it was in Boston, actually, that I got the actor bug, like something came up. I was like, maybe acting. And I was next to New York. So my friend said, why don't you just take a train?
Did you ever do any of the telenovelas? Did you do any of that, or
Not too many of them. I tried once, but it was really brief. I don't know. Life took
you
me
try?
towards other paths. But I could have maybe if I had pursued down that path, but somehow like my current was going somewhere else. So yeah, I was much more of like a theater for many years. I just did like theater for many years, and then I jumped to TV. I did a show for like 2 years in Mexican TV. Um, and then I went back to theater, musical theater that I had
Mhm.
no knowledge of, but that was for 3 years. It was a very intense experience. And then I went back to movies and TV and that's where I've stayed mostly. But going back to theater, of course, is always like the home for me, like of a night.
Okay.
I kind of miss it sometimes. I'm like, I'm gonna look for an opportunity again.
In Monterrey, somebody explained it to me that it's the closest thing to Dallas in Mexico. I still want to go there. I was watching Eva Longoria. She has a show.
She's from Corpus Christi or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Pretty Caribbean.
She did
Yeah.
this wonderful show. In Search of Mexico. It was on CNN's show, and I
Mhm.
was so proud because I discovered because I'm a Jewish boy from Dallas, found out that the Jewish people had a lot to do with flour tortillas. I'm like, I felt so proud for a moment
Oh,
because
that's great. Where in LA or
no,
in?
oh, no. Well, because I don't know
Oh,
when they first founded Monterrey, they were
oh, okay,
escaping
in
the
Monterey.
Spanish Inquisition,
Yes.
and they couldn't eat, for like Passover or something, the matzah, the bread, so they had to have a flat, unleavened. So
I
I think,
love that. And you know what? Monterey, the first settlers were Sephardic, Jewish
mhm.
settlers, and so a lot of the costumes stayed. And there's a lot of community, a large Jewish community, of course. And the costumes, there are studies done
Mhm.
about that, about the types of houses and what you said of the flour tortillas. Great.
Right.
No, I didn't know this, and all these little details that are still going on in our daily life that come from this Jewish root,
And I never
specifically
knew that.
Monterey.
I just knew I liked. So when I came to from the time I was 7, I came to Padre every single year, and all my friends were, all these, rambunctious kids were all, from Texas and Monterrey. So we all would
Yeah.
get together and go stir up mischief, and when's the last time you were down here?
Actually, we were talking with our parents not long ago about going back because we used to go a lot when we were kids. Because my dad is from a large Mexican family. There's
Uh-huh.
7 brothers, okay? And somehow, when they were little, my grandfather bought a little house there in Padre
Uh-huh.
because they were traveling to Texas since then and kind of they went shopping and they bought a little house that we would go to when we were small. And we have so many memories from the sand dunes back
Oh
then
yeah.
and playing in the
Or
sand
you drive
dunes
up north on the island where it's empty and it's just
and the
yeah.
weeds and how they smelled and the very specific smell. And so it's just like a lot of happy memories for us as a family there. And of course, that house, then they sold it, the brothers. But we always want to kind of revisit and go back. It was in
Mhm.
Lantana Street, and we have
Uh-huh.
looked it in Google. We were like, Lantana. No, there's no
That's a
little
little
there.
further south of me here. Now you got Elon Musk shooting off his SpaceX rockets. We was well, a
Oh,
couple of days ago. The island's different, but it's the same. I liked it when it was
yeah.
younger. It was kind of kitschy. It was it was a fun place to be.
Yes,
So,
yes.
but
I'm so happy you're there now.
next time you're down here, we'll get you a nice frosty beverage at Blackbeard's. I don't know if you remember
Oh, I would
Blackbeard.
love that.
But going back to the show, I'm a big fan of Owen Wilson. Big fan. I think
Oh,
Mark Maron
yeah.
always undersells. I think he's great. The young man who plays your son,
Peter Dagger.
was there an easy chemistry? Like I'm going to be your mother. So is it like were you like putting him in timeouts just
Awkwardly.
for? No, I'm just kidding. But
Time out. We're not
so,
speaking. Not
so
speaking.
how easy was the chemistry when y'all got on set? Did it click or
It
did it take a
was
moment to kind of
so,
warm
yeah,
up?
it was really, I know everybody says this all the time, like it was so great, it was so easy, but no, really. Some experiences sometimes are a little more awkward or slow, slow cooking into a connection or a bond. And it's part of, it's normal. Like we're not the same with everybody and people, it's different bonds. And that's the beauty of the profession. But with Peter, it was so instant. I arrived late to set because I had my passport. I lost my passport right before the trip, and I was
Hmm.
panicking. I was like, I'm not going to make it. So I made it miraculously at the very last minute. And so when I got into the sets and I was all flustered and hurried, and I'm like jumping into it, and Peter was there, and I remember distinctly his face, and he was like, Mommy, he was so personable and so sweet in the first beat. And he gave me this really nice, welcome, as well as Owen. Owen, everybody, knew what was happening, that I was like running late and I was like in a rut. So
Hmm.
Owen was so welcoming as well. And so sweet, in his first embrace and in his welcoming. And that really sets the tone for the rest of the work of the months
Oh,
that you
absolutely.
there.
I don't like spoilers. All I'm going to say is that this is the tone vibe. This is kind of a show we've needed for a little bit. 'Cause it seems
Yeah.
like there's a lot of shows now that, which are wonderful. They're fantastic, works, but like, they're dystopian or I'm like, we have enough of like you can turn on the news and things are a little wonky. I want something that's going to be good vibes.
Yeah. It's nice to have a show that brings us back and draws us back to our humanity, to our human
The,
aspects that we sometimes disconnect from.
I got to know the experience of working with Mark Maron because he's always self-deprecating. He's not that great of an actor. He's just kind of hacking at it. I think he's fantastic
He's
at
a
everything he does.
fantastic actor.
But
Yes.
what was it like kind of working with Mark?
I think it was, I think we really had a good, we struck it, like, it was really easy too, for some reason. I mean, we didn't struggle as our characters struggle. He was always very, uh, like very gracious, very nice. There was never an awkward, situation between us meeting each other or everything. I love his sense of humor. On the contrary, totally on the contrary, I love his sense of humor. I love how quick he is, and how honest he is, and it went perfectly with Mitz, with the character.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was really funny, him inhabiting this character that seemingly is very similar to to him.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he's a really nice man and smart man,
He
and
really seems like he could be, his persona is maybe somebody could be rough around the edges, but he seems like a very good, like he's got a good heart, So,
yeah, yeah,
he's,
yeah, and
plus
it's
he's got
very
the
much
whole,
like Mitz in the show,
yeah,
right?
that's the direction I feel like we're going with him, but I was, I'm waiting to kind of watch. My daughter decided to go to bed
Yes.
early, so she's watching it with me,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
giving me her 19-year-old opinion.
He's so funny, by the way. Mitz,
Oh,
Mark, so funny, and people love him. Like, we went to the set, and everybody was like, "Marc, Maron, we're a fan," because he is really, he's got his fandom. He's really funny. He writes his own stand. I mean, it was really,
he's very good at this, at the stand-up thing, but I just was
yeah.
always curious, is like when you're just kind of hanging out with him, is he noticing things and commenting on things and giving his own like little
Yes,
opinion,
he is,
Yeah,
of
okay.
course. Yeah.
Hey, it's Mark Preston, and I would like to tell you a little bit about one of our sponsors, X-Chair. Whether you're working from home or in the office, if you have a job or a task that has you sitting for a long period of time, this is the chair for you. Very comfortable, very customizable. They'll make it pretty much any way you want it. The look, the feel, the fabrics, everything. Plus, this is the kind of chair you can adjust to make it fit you just right. No matter your body type, it's spot on. I love my X-Chair. It has the Elemax cooling, heating, and massage technology. It is going to make your lower back feel so very good. Got to throw a little bit of love to X-Chair. It's the chair I'm sitting in every time I talk to a guest. So I've had a lot of time to have my tush in this chair, and the tush, the back, everybody's happy. Just go to storyandcraftpod.com/chair. Once again, X-Chair, check it out, storyandcraftpod.com/chair. Love my X-Chair. Your back will thank you. Well, tell you what, one of the things I like to do with all of my guests is something I call my 7 questions. It's a little extra fun. And the first question, I always got to talk food. I'm so glad I've got you on because I could talk food from your neck of the woods. But what is your favorite comfort food? That thing that, like if you're having a bad day, it just makes you feel better. A good day, it just makes it even better day. What would that thing be for you?
I think up until now, because that has changed, because it needed to change. But for the longest time, it was just los tamarindos in Mexico. The candy
Really?
in Mexico, that has chile. Like, a lot of varieties of candy are just candy with chile.
Is it
So
is it
un
that
buen
is it that
little-
stuff they serve on a spoon that's really sticky and
Yeah, la chamoy, the chile, there's like
oh,
many varieties. Just like there's a lot of varieties in Mexican food just with one element, tortilla. Like tortilla, you can get like 20 different
mhm.
different dishes. So it is with the tamarindos, with the
That
chili
my
candy.
my daughter likes this thing. They always serve it on a spoon and they wrap it with saran
Yes.
wrap, and
Uh-huh.
it's like
I think they're called cucarachas. I don't know. I don't know.
and that stuff's everywhere. Go in the grocery, have like, all these different
I love that.
chamoys.
Yeah.
My
And I
daughter, they
used
had,
to eat that. In South Padre, I used to go to the 7-Eleven to buy the Archie booklets.
uh-huh.
And yeah, we would travel with a big bag of tamarindos, and that was my favorite combination. Like the Archie booklets with the tamarindos and some other, things in Mexico, El Condorito, and some other Mexican like comic strips. But that has been my comfort food for a long time. Too long.
Really?
Of the stomach, when you become an adult,
Oh.
you're like, no more tamarindos.
Yeah, there are
Like,
certain
no more.
things I eat, and I go like, I don't feel
Yeah.
nearly as good. That's the
Yes.
thing kids used to do on the island. Just go walk to 7-Eleven,
Yeah,
get
because the air conditioner was there, and it was like a
yeah.
little
And your parents are like,
island of
leave, just
repose,
go do your thing
an
today.
oasis. You could repose and be fresh and look at the magazines. Yeah.
Very nice. Well, the next question I have for you, if you're going to sit down for an hour or an afternoon and have a coffee with with 3 people, living or not, who would those 3 people be?
Oh
Who
my.
like so going to be 4 of you at a table? Who would you like to sit down with and just chat for a few
Oh
hours?
my God. That's a hard. question. It's so broad. I don't know. One of them for sure, George Eliot, the writer. I just love George Eliot. I love her. I love her novels. Um, I'm always waiting for time to pass so I can reread them, and I
Mhm.
do cycles. So yeah, I would love to like sit down with her. We're both Marianne's too. When I discovered that we had the same name, I was like, there's a little affinity. But yeah, I'm an admirer of her novels. George Eliot would be one, and oh man, it's really really hard. I think Meryl Streep, I would love. I would love. I admire her so much, and
Oh,
she's so
yeah.
much fun. And I would love to be able to have that chance. And I guess Emiliano Zapata. I don't know if he drank coffee, but whatever he drank, pulque, I would have loved to have met him, not in battle, but on
Yeah.
his side, of course, of the meeting.
Going back to the food real quick, I have to ask this because you have a Mexican grandmother, a couple of them. What was that thing growing up that the grandmothers, that was always like, okay, I know I'm home now. I have to go back to the food thing
Yeah.
one time.
Yeah.
What would that
So my
be?
Mexican mother, my father's mother, that lived on the back of our house. We lived next to each other. She used to make these gorditas, similar to the flour tortilla that you were saying. It's also made of the same material, I think, but it's hard and really flat and toasted.
Uh-huh.
And so she used to make them with a special recipe that nobody ever knew. and we would eat it with aguacate, with
That's
avocado. And every time we went to her house to visit her, which was very often, and she would do that for us in
Yeah,
tea time.
my daughter's dating somebody with a Jewish and great grandmother and great grandmother makes fresh chorizo, and I don't know how
Yeah.
to feel about the boy because he takes ketchup and squirts ketchup on everything. I'm like, on your chorizo. I was like, that's the only issue I got with the boy. The next question I've got for you: who was your very first celebrity crush when you were a young one?
I think I had two in this culture. I had in Mexico. I had like from Timbiriche and other bands and everything. But for here,
Mhm.
I remember seeing in the magazines, in the teen magazines that arrive in Mexico, every
Oh yeah,
so
like Tiger
often.
Beat and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. Also in the 7-Elevens, you see, that was the place to go.
Right, right, right.
Those were like the hip,
Did
up
they
and
still have
coming
video
places
games when
too.
you went there? Like, you go there with some quarters. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I remember, of course, being in love with Sean Astin because of Goonies. I think that was like, I loved that movie, of course. It's still one of my favorites. And Sean Astin was amazing. And I was really in love with him. Um, I am, I think I even once I took a picture of him and I slept with the picture, underneath my pillow. I was like, let him be close to me. I think I remember that. And also River Phoenix.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So you were a typical
And
teenager of the
oh no,
80s.
I
Yeah.
can't tell you this because it's a spoiler, but yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk later. When we're in
Okay.
Paris,
Very
we'll
good.
touch upon this.
Well, now, if you're going to live on an exotic island for a year, and it's somewhere you want to be, somewhere really nice, but you don't have any streaming, so if you want to listen to music, you got to bring a CD with you, and a
Hmm.
movie, you got to bring a DVD, something you listen to all year long, and something you can watch over and over again. What would that
Oh.
CD be, and what would that DVD be?
Oh my God. That's a hard one too. Um, I don't know. CDs, CDs, it's been a long time since but at some point in my life they were everything. I kept them in my
Yeah.
truck to keep, in my thingy
Hmm.
they were like my most prized possession. Um, I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe something from blues. I always loved blues.
Okay.
I always loved country as well, country music. I loved it. And of course, um, the sublime Mexican, like Los Panchos, the trios,
Hmm.
um, music from Los Panchos, los trios mexicanos. When I was living in New York, I remember finding a CD of Luis Miguel in one of the stores randomly. And I remember that CD of Luis Miguel became like my homeland for the time that when I was living there for the 4 years. I heard it over and over again. And Luis Miguel, when he was starting in the 80s, and then when he sung the boleros, and the boleros would be lovely to listen to as well in an island. I don't know. There's an ample possibility of options.
We'll get you a box set, of all your.
Yeah, so I have a little bit more of a possibility.
Well, is there a movie that you can watch over and over again? You like, whatever comes on TV, you'll just watch it. Something you could bring and is there anything like that for you?
I remember now that we're speaking about Texas, that when I saw Paris, Texas was like an instant favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Just in my mind, in my imaginary, it kind of stayed there, floating around. I thought that it was just such a beautiful film, and the performances were so compelling and so mysterious and so desertic, just like the landscape that we have in common in Texas and Mexico. It's like
right,
like the same land. So
but you have all those mountains, which is beautiful.
yeah,
Man.
Monterey has like these beautiful blue green mountains that are just like so jaw-dropping. But it's still desert. It's still desertic.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. It's still like, the dusty roads and just like a desert. Just like in Baja, that there's the sea and the desert.
Yeah.
That's very crazy combination, and it creates a very strange magnetism. And the characters of the people there are very specific because of it. In Mexico, I think we do have the combination of desert and mountain, as you just said it. And it creates,
Now, if you were not doing this for a living, on the next question, what would you be doing? What would be a good number two, another job or a vocation for you that would bring you joy besides acting? What would that be?
I mean, I like meditating. I think I could do that as my lifestyle. You know what I mean? Like as a more of a full-time thing. I could see myself doing that further on in the path of my life. I think that for example, being a painter at some point when I was younger, I started painting and I left it. My grandfather, my maternal grandfather, was a painter. My Argentinian grandfather, he was a cartoonist.
Really?
Illustrator, and a painter, a really good one. And I always had that with him, that like a little connection. And I dropped it. I never picked it up again. But I think it's a great profession because it's also like you don't need much, but you and the contents of your soul and the perceptions of, and you and this dialogue with the canvas. And
so you want to, to create and express. As long as you can do that, that would make you happy.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Well, the last question I got for you, if you were to travel back in time, you got that DeLorean and you're traveling back to when you're 16 years old, and you got a piece of advice for yourself, for 16-year-old you, what would that piece of advice be? And I always say maybe it's just you want to make that moment better in your life, or maybe you want to put yourself on a little bit different track. What would you tell 16-year-old you?
I would tell myself, never, like have the confidence in yourself to keep going always. Sometimes when you're at 16, very much like Santi is in the show, it's a very tough time. And, like there's a lot of vulnerability in that moment in life. You want to go out in the world, you think you're an adult. You have the impetu of an adult and you think you want to go out and eat the world up. But you go through experiences that are very trying because it's like you're coming of age, you're crossing the threshold into.
And everything's big and dramatic. Yeah.
Yes. And strong things can happen. And you don't have the internal tools to deal with it sometimes. And I would just tell myself, like, don't let yourself down. Don't lose confidence in yourself. No matter what happens, you're going to be able to handle everything that comes your way. Just keep going. Keep going. Never stop, because that's what we have to do in life,
That's one thing I like about his character's name is Santi, right? Is that how you say his name?
Santi, yeah.
Santi. He did seem like he maintained what teenager would be. Here's a guy that can play golf really well. He's a little bit of a phenom, but he's still a teenager. He's still a teenager with.
And it's like they really want their parents to take care of them at that age. They don't know that, but the parents know that sometimes. They're like, they still need their parents, at that age, even if they play big.
Yeah, and as a parent, you kind of want them to feel the same way at 40. It's kind of like a.
Yes, exactly. We were talking about that the other day. We're like,
Mariana, it's been more than a treat. Next time you're in South Padre, look me up. There's the OG favorite, which is Blackbeard's. I mean, you cannot come to South Padre without going to Blackbeard's. That's or 7-Eleven with some quarters, or
yeah.
But best of luck to you.
There's a little golf course. There was El Golfito. There was a little golf course that everybody went to.
There was like a little dome.
Ball.
They just tore it down. They just tore it down.
That was beautiful. It was like a little dome ball.
We used to go play golf there, and then we go to 7-Eleven and get our slushy things.
Exactly, El Golfito.
It's more than a pleasure, and I wish you nothing but the best. And I'm going to go watch the rest of the episodes now.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you for reminding me of that golf course in South Padre that I had completely forgotten. Because I spent there a lot of time when we went there, and it was like a happy place for me.
Well, that makes me feel good that I wasn't the only kid.
We make this show. So thank you.
Best of luck. Hopefully we'll catch up down the line.
Thank you, Mark. Nice to meet you.
All right, there you go, Mariana Treviño. Fun conversation. Really enjoyed the opportunity to sit down with her. The new show, Stick, it is on right now. Apple TV, along with Owen Wilson and Marc Maron and Judy Greer, Timothy Oliphant. Great show. I think you will enjoy it. Feel good show. We need more of those. Okay, I'm going to jump on out of here. Make sure, as I always humbly request, make sure to pop onto your podcast app and follow Story and Craft. That way you get notified. New episode comes out and you find out immediately. Also, just head on over to storyandcraftpod.com, the website. Everything you could possibly want to know about the show, past episodes, past guests, just go right on over there. It's all there for you. All right, I'm going to get on out of here. You have yourself a wonderful weekend or week or whenever you're listening. And thank you so much for making whatever I've got going on here part of whatever you've got going on. And we'll be back in a few days right here with another episode of Story and Craft.
That's it for this episode of Story and Craft. Join Mark next week for more conversation right here on Story and Craft. Story and Craft is a presentation of Marc Preston Productions, LLC. Executive producer is Marc Preston. Associate producer is Zachary Holden. Please rate and review Story and Craft on Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. You can subscribe to show updates and stay in the know. Just head to storyandcraftpod.com and sign up for the newsletter. I'm Emma Dillon. See you next time, and remember, keep telling your story.
Come on.